Long time ago, there lived two families, the Sonya and Agbabiaka. These families were bound not by blood but by friendship, so deep like the rain through the generations. So strong was their friendship that when their children were born, just 2 days apart, they looked at each other and said, "One day our children will marry. This is how we will build our blood with our bond." And so it was. Olawumi, daughter of the Agbabiakas, was beautiful in the quiet way. Her beauty was steady and deep. She loved to dance barefoot in the rain and tell stories. Toby, the son of the Sonyas, was strong, silent, practical and always working. He could build nothing from nothing and had a heart full of dreams he never said out loud. When Olawumi and Toby were 24, their parents brought them together and said, now it is time for them to get married. But the quiet truth was that Olawumi and Toby did not want the wedding, not really. Toby had grown up being told a man's duty is to his father's word, and Olawumi had also grown up hearing a good daughter honor her parents' promise. However, duty is not the same as desire, and obedience is not the same as joy. Olawumi had dreams of traveling to many countries to study and tell stories. Tunde had plans to build his own house first, to live alone for a while, to figure himself out before tying himself to someone else. They spoke about it weeks before their parents sat them down. "Do you want this?" Olawumi asked. Toby paused. "I want peace, and I want our families to be proud." Olawumi looked at him. "That is a no, right?" "It is a no," he replied. And in that silence, their fate was sealed by silence itself. When their parents find out that they are not ready for that, the both families refused to hear any excuse from them. Toby's father was furious. He drank palm wine and slapped his back. Olawumi's mother started making plans for her grandchildren, started buying matching shoes and clothes. When Olawumi told her, "Mother, my heart didn't feel ready," and she got one thing in return. "Do you want to shame our family?" her mother asked. "After everything we have done for you?" And Toby asked his father if maybe we could wait another year. His father spit on the ground. "Do you think love grows from freedom? No, love grows from roots, from duty. You will marry that girl, or you are no son of mine." So Toby shut his mouth. Olawumi shut her heart, and the wedding marched forward like a train without no brakes. The gossip began. Toby's auntie saying, "That girl is too wild to be a wife, always barefoot and laughing with spirits." Olawumi's uncle whispered, "That boy's heart is made of wood. Does he even smile? They are going to kill each other with silence." Others said, "It's a strong match. Their parents are best friends. It will work. It must." However, gossip like smoke tells where fire hides. No one ever asked Toby if he loved her. No one asked Olawumi if she was happy. Only the drummers were paid. Only the clothes was sewn. Only the goats were slaughtered. 2 months later, a grand wedding was held. Drums were played. Goats were slaughtered. Elders danced like boys, and mother wept tears of joy. The whole village said, "This is the marriage of destiny." However, destiny does not always work in a straight line. After a year, The marriage began to crack like dry earth after drought. Olawumi wanted to travel, to learn and to tell stories. Toby wanted quiet routine and a home, but with his own ends. Olawumi spoke with fire, Toby answered with silence. Their argument started as spark and became wildfire over the smallest things. Olawumi returned back home one night. "Why did you stay out late?" She replied, "Don't you know who I am when you agreed to marry me? You are asking me why I came back home late. Did you ever look me in the eyes? We live like strangers. We always felt alone whenever we are together." One evening, after a storm of words, they slept separate. The silence between them was louder than the drums of war. At first, the arguments were full of annoying, but soon they became louder, unmovable. One day, Olawumi come back from a storytelling cycle in the neighboring village. Toby was in the kitchen preparing food for himself. He barely looked up. "You are always talking about stories," he said, "but who will cook when you are out there chasing shadows?" Olawumi stood in froze. "I bring joy, I bring voice, and stories are food for the soul." Toby didn't answer anymore. His silence sliced through her joy like a matches. Another time, Olawumi invited guests, a group of young writers passing through the village. They brought drums, wine, and laugh. Toby was tired from building a new roof for the school. Came home to noise and unfamiliar faces. He stood at the doorway like a stranger in his own home. "You didn't tell me," Toby said, his teeth tight. "You never listen when I do," Olawumi replied, handing him a cup of wine. He didn't take it. Instead, he turned and left. He slept in his brother's house that night. Not long, they started arguing over food. She only knew how to cook rice and stew. Toby sat ready for dinner. Rice and stew was served. "Why can't you learn how to cook others' food properly?" Toby asked. "Because I was busy learning how to think, not just to serve food." And over time, Toby will not return home. He stayed with his brother. When he finally returned, then she asked, "You are always gone. Are you ashamed of this home?" Olawumi asked. "Yes," Toby replied. "I am ashamed of being unseen, unheard." What home is that? One night, after Olawumi sat feel lonely, while Toby sat beside the window staring at the sky, Olawumi cried out in frustration, "Toby, are you a statue? I feel more alone with you than when I am by myself." Toby's voice was cold and measured, and he replied, "Then maybe you should be by yourself then." They slept back to back that night, both of them wondering how could love feel like prison. They called their parents and narrated everything to them. "You must endure. That is what our mothers did," Olawumi's mother said. And Toby's father warned him, "If you fail this marriage, you have break a bond older than both of you." However, none of them had the strength left to carry everyone's dream, not when their own dreams were crumbling. One day, Olawumi sat outside. She sat in silence. She held a letter in her hand but never sent it. Toby stood beside the window staring outside, thinking where Olawumi once danced barefoot. He was hoping to see her laughter again, but he didn't. Finally, in the quiet evening, Toby made everything feel honest. Toby said, "We kept fighting to fit into a story someone else wrote for us." Olawumi nodded quietly. "Maybe it is time we write our own on different page. What if we take time apart?" Toby said softly. not as enemy, but as stranger, seeking to know ourselves again. Olawumi looked at him. Tears wanted to fall from her eyes, but her voice was strong. Yes, she replied. 1 year, no letter, no message, no word. At the end, we will know the truth. And so, just as the sun sets, before the dark comes, they parted. That very day, no one in the village understood it. A year apart, without speaking, what madness is this? Their family said. However, Toby and Olawumi did not answer. They were tired of explaining their pain to people who only saw the wedding and never saw the war. Olawumi packed lightly, her diary record, her beads, her dreams. Toby gave her his favorite painting with a symbol of protection. No words, just a nod, a soft goodbye. Between people who had said too much and still not enough, Olawumi moved to the city. The city was alive more than the village. Noise left and right. Light shine in every corner. Stranger. At first, it overwhelmed Olawumi until one day she was walking along the road and she discovered the radio station, a place where stories are still heard, where words could fly like bells and find ears that needed them. She spoke into the microphone like it was a friend. One night, after telling a tale about a girl who ran away from a life that wasn't hers, after a story, a young man named Biodun, he wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but he listened, walked towards her and said, "You speak like the winds as live inside your chest." Olawumi smiled a soft smile. They met for coffee once, then again, then again. He asked her questions no one had ever asked her, like what will you write if you were not afraid? Who haunts your voice before you found it again? He asked many questions as he can. With time, Olawumi began to laugh like she hadn't in years. Their relationship became stronger and closer. Olawumi knew she had never loved Toby. She had loved the duty, the idea, the shape of love, not its breadth. Back in the village, silence wrapped itself around Toby like a second skin. At first, he missed Olawumi with a hunger. He cooked too much, spoke too little. Then slowly, the quiet taught him to listen to himself. He began to paint, not walls or wood, but picture, bells, hills, faces he had never seen, and the ones he had seen and never forgotten. One afternoon, as he stood by the river, a voice called out from behind, "You are wasting good talent, hiding like that." It was Wura, the young woman who sold cassava, play with every man but never marry none. She walked towards him, sat beside him, looked at his drawing and said, "This is what peace looks like. I hope you give it to the one who gives you the same back." Over time, Wura became his shadow. She laughed at him. She made him feel chosen. One day he looked at her and realized he had never been this version of himself with Olawumi because he didn't even know he could. 1 year passed like a slow river. Olawumi returned to the village not as a wife but as a woman who had tasted freedom and will never give it back. When they saw her, the sky was quiet. The village stared at her, some with hope, others with doubt. She went to the house she once lived as a wife. She found Toby sitting under a mango tree, making bells from wood. He looked up for a second. They said nothing. Then Toby said, "You look like you belong to yourself now." "I do," she answered, "and so do you." They sat not as lovers, not even as friends, but as two people who had survived something scared and difficult. We were never meant to be married, Olawumi said. Toby nodded, but we were meant to meet to wake each other up. Their parents were expecting them to come back together. They called both of them, Toby and Olawumi. What is still keeping you? Olawumi, you are supposed to live with your husband. You gave yourself 1 year break and you are back now. Then Olawumi replied, Mother, I've never for once loved Toby as my husband. And Toby said the same thing. Their parents were very angry. Then Olawumi returned to the city. She married Biodun in a quiet beach ceremony with poem instead of vows. Toby stayed in the village, built a school, and married Wura. He said, I want to build something with you, not just house, but a life. Their parents were furious because their children destroyed the friendship bond. But when they saw how their children smiled, not for the world, but from the inside, they understood sometimes love isn't duty. Sometimes the soul must be lost to be found. And sometimes letting go is the most scared act of love. Moral lesson: brave enough to part, brave enough to search, brave enough to say this part is not mine. So let us teach our sons and daughters that marriage is not a price for obedience. Love is not born in silence and sacrifice alone. And a broken promise is better than a broken soul. Thank you for watching this video. Kindly share your thoughts with me in the comment section. What lesson did you learn from this story? Share this story with your loved ones. And please, if you've not subscribed, subscribe to this channel till I bring another story your way. Bye!